Good morning. It's a good but sad morning also because we have lost one of the greatest personalities of India, Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam, last evening. The way he saluted this world, it shall be registered in the mind of every Indian and especially teachers. He uh, went off, he died, he left us while addressing his students at IIM Shillong. No pain, no medication, no hospitalization. Helen Hardy. I think everyone would like to pray to the God that yes, everyone has to salute, but the way he saluted this world, this is a award to him and great inspiration to all of us to carry his path further. I recall one of his interviews that when he was asked that whether he would like to be called scientist, engineer, president of India, he replied, a teacher. That I can never forget. And being a teacher, small teacher, before that giant personality, we feel that yes, every word is inspirational and we have to take those words to make India, really developed India, what he always dreamed of. He would say that the youth of India in common uh, are like sophisticated ships. They are common, but they are like sophisticated ship without compass. And it is our duty to put compass in them. He put compass in our generation, in youth, among children, and now we have to see that that compass must keep working. This is our responsibility. Taking this responsibility forward as one of the teachers, I would like to uh, address this episode on the issue of foreign policy and diplomacy. I decided to start from this because of the fact that this is the very important policy of any country, and generally youth of country are not so aware of how do we deal with others. Foreign policy is just like a policy of a person who is dealing with his closed door neighbors, and he never deals with every neighbor in the same way. If the next door neighbor is high court judge, next is an IPS officer, next is a scientist, next is a businessman, the approach to deal with every neighbor will be certainly different. Same is with the country. And so I would like to start from the point that foreign policy of any country depends on historical, geographical, cultural, social, geopolitical, military factors. And taking all these factors into account, first, what are the ideals of India's foreign policy? Firstly, India opposes colonialism. No need to say India it opposes because India itself sustained colonial exploitation. India opposes racial discrimination because Indians themselves sustain racial discrimination and exploitation, of course. India opposes military attack, what is called imperialism, because India herself sustained lots of military attacks. Rather, we would say Indian history is history of military attacks over India. Then comes India has made it a point that it won't invite third-party mediation. Let me clarify in a future course of this address that why India invited third-party mediation in spite of having this ideal. But firstly, let us go by the ideals. Similarly, India will not join any military alliance world over to avoid military tension. And next, India shall remain always active in peace operation of United Nations to make United Nations more and more credible in course of time. Apart from all these ideals, Nehruji, especially, who is regarded as father of India's foreign policy, architect of India's foreign policy, he had credit of three more principles, especially in 1954, which was milestone in Nehruvian era. Firstly, principle of Panchsheel with China, which has five principles. Firstly, treating each other on the basis of equality. So treating each other, respecting each other, government and power. So not to interfere into each other internal affair. So not to attack each other, and so peaceful coexistence and world peace. That is to ensure. It was basic principle of Panchsheel. However, in spite of Panchsheel, China intruded in 1957, attacked India in 1962. It was failure of Panchsheel, but at the same time, China lost credibility also in the eyes of the world, no doubt. Second was non-alignment. Non-alignment was launched by Jawaharlal Nehru. This term was coined by him, and non-alignment was also an alignment to oppose those alignments which were forming around superpowers, especially after NATO in 1949 and Warsaw Pact in 1953, when world became bipolar. India started leading third world countries by trying to maintain equal distance from the superpowers. That was the basic objective. Third comes disarmament, which Nehruji put forward before the nation, especially after seeing the havoc of nuclear bomb over Japan. And that too, thereafter, the same country became permanent member of Security Council. So it seemed to be more in Security Council than Security Council, and Nehruji, being third world leader, not only Prime Minister of India, put forward ideal of ideal of disarmament. But yes, he could realize that India has to maintain minimum security requirement that India is maintaining today. These, if you take all together, these are the ideals of foreign policy of India. At the same time, what is diplomacy? Diplomacy is real aspect of foreign policy. What is real aspect? Like India, as non-aligned leader, tried to maintain equal distance from superpowers. But yes, in 1971, when India was threatened by nuclear consequences by US in Indo-Pak War, India had no option but to invite intervention by Soviet Union. India even invited United Nations intervention in 1947 on J&K issue. So that was the question of national interest. That was the question of national security. And no country compromise with national security. Take example of Mr. Barack Hussein Obama today, who is Nobel Peace Prize winner. At the same time, he is the man who has ordered for military strike in Afghanistan, in Iraq, in Syria, in Lebanon. Why? This is reality. He himself said that yes, all these wars are just war to ensure peace. So ideal is peace, but reality is war. War is not to generate further war, but war is to generate peace. This happens. This happens with India also. So diplomacy is real aspect and foreign policy the ideal aspect. Nehruji, in terms of foreign policy, if I'd like to address every prime minister precisely that who approached foreign policy in what way, Nehruji was quite defensive. And he had to be defensive because at that point of time he was facing lots of external challenges, including domestic challenges on the ground of fight over state reorganization, linguism. Because of that, Nehruji, even during his era itself, it was formed Armed Forces Special Power Act to deal with internal disturbances. Resources were quite limited and challenges were quite unlimited. So naturally, in that kind of situation, it is very simple to criticize today that he was quite defensive, and he was even taken certain over defensive step. But think of those situations, he was very right and very justified in taking defensive step. And in simple term, I would like to make youth of India understand that that an opening batsman should always be a defensive batsman, to pile up the runs, to pile up the score, and to save the team spirit. Next comes Shastriji. He was, of course, very aggressive in terms of foreign policy because it was need of hour. Pakistan attacked. Pakistan took India granted. Seeing the defeat of India from China, Pakistan also thought of, but that their objective was badly defeated. And Shastriji, of course, we lost Shastriji in Tashkent agreement, which is missed even today. Then comes Srimati Indira Gandhi, and she has three terms, 66 to 1970, 1971 to 77, 1980 to 1984. But taking complete view of her foreign policy, she was very clear. That is, especially after 1971 Indo-Pak War, when she had Soviet friendship, and of course she sent SOS to Soviet Union to against the nuclear threat of US. It was complete departure from nuclear non-aligned movement. But yes, at the same time, national security, safeguarding sovereignty of India was more important. And that way, she was not only pro-Soviet, but she was anti-US also. Yes, she was anti-US also. Very clear and stand, not trying to maintain an equal distance from the two superpowers. In latter part, of course, Mr. Rajiv Gandhi, he tried to set balance between the two superpowers by visiting US just after becoming Prime Minister of India, and he was very much welcome because it was bipolar world. He came back and he immediately visited Soviets also. He tried to convey by visiting Soviet after visit of US that yes, friendship with US is not at the cost of Soviets. At the same time, he tried to win neighbors also into confidence by carrying out military operation in Maldives, carrying out military operation in Sri Lanka. But yes, that costed his life. That's of course we remember Rajiv Gandhi even today. That yes, he was compelled, of course, to intervene into Sri Lanka, because had he not intervened, there may be intervention by US, and he wanted to avoid some sort of US tension on coastal India, because the land boundary is already full of tension. It happens when a prime minister takes a step, even a person takes a step. If he does anything, he would be committing certain mistake. If you're not committing any mistake, you are doing nothing. But we expect from every prime minister that they would be committing new mistake instead of committing no mistake. So committing new mistake is progressive step. Then come Mr. Narasimha Rao, of course, and Mr. Narasimha Rao led of course, he became Prime Minister of India with lots of challenges like economic crisis, Gulf War, unipolar world, signing on GATT, and because of that, he started looking at East and tried to explore East, but he sustained lots of challenges. He could not develop that much of the relations as it was expected to, because he was not even welcomed in USA, as it was unipolar world, and all those countries who were American allies, they were quite closer to. So India was a bit isolated during his tenure. But during economic reform, he had made certain drastic decisions which he had no choice, and because of that, Indian voters gave fractured mandate, and consequently India sustained three elections, 96, 98, 99, and then ultimately Mr. Atal Bihari Vajpayee took charge. Mr. Vajpayee carried forward looking at East policy. He tried once again to set right balance between looking at East and looking at West. At the same time, his second nuclear explosion strengthened India's first nuclear explosion, and India, of course, officially announced its capability of making hydrogen bomb and nuclear bomb. And that is reality, because on one hand, India was having ideal of disarmament. On the other hand, India was going for nuclear armament. That was need of hour to maintain minimum security requirement, which any country has to. After Mr. Vajpayee, from Manmohan Singh, and Mr. Manmohan Singh being economic Prime Minister of India, he has top priority for energy crisis, energy sector. He tried to ensure energy security that was related to border security and internal security, of course. But the nuclear deal could not work out even today. because we had tried to have sophisticated nuclear technology. At the same time, we did not sign NPT because of various reasons. And because of that, we are not able to get uninterrupted supply of nuclear material from NSG. And then comes Mr. Narendra Modi, who repeated the historic victory of in Lok Sabha, like Mr. Rajiv Gandhi in 1984, but his approach is a bit different. Instead of classifying foreign policy into looking at east or looking at west, he's looking all around. He is trying to take his neighbor into confidence. He started his foreign policy from Bharat to Bhutan. He is visiting, of course, Far East. He visited Japan, visited Australia, visited Canada, Germany, France, visited USA, made historic speeches everywhere. And of course, he is trying his level best to explore the entire world, because it's a really great to do. And that way, we Indian must be very sure that we are ready to face the challenges of multipolar world in future. Thank you so much. Thank you.